Hello and welcome to another episode of The Average EV. Today we are checking out one of the first electric era installs on the East Coast. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, you join me here in Camden, Delaware at one of the first electric era installs on the East Coast. So basically in this video, I kind of want to show everybody around. I want to show the user experience and give my thoughts, both the pluses and minuses. So let's go ahead, flip the camera around and check out this site. So here it is. This is an SK Signet unit, a 400 kilowatt unit. Go ahead and show you the label here on the side. Hopefully you all can see that. 500 amp max, 1000 volts. There it is, SK Signet. And then I want to show you something cool. I've never seen SK Signet charging handles, but here they are. Definitely different than the Huber Schooner. And definitely different than the Amphenol. But there it is. I like the blue, I will say that. And they're all the charging units here have CCS, no NACS. And then here's the screen, as a fairly big screen, which I actually have some concerns about. But you have left port on top, right port on bottom, plug in to continue. Pricing, $0 per kilowatt hour right now. That is just temporary as they're testing these out. And then if you want to get some help, you can click help. You can click help. There we go. Gives you a phone number and you can report a problem. Okay, so there is that. And up here you can see GPM. Charging station powered by Electric Era. And Fast Charge and Fast Smart appear to be the providers here as well. And then let's go ahead and walk over here and check out all this equipment. So they got some Eaton equipment here. All this stuff, I'm not gonna pretend to know what all this stuff means or what it is. Here is, looks like a little transformer. Yep, isolation transformer. I'll get that label if you're interested. There we go. And then this is what I wanted to talk about. So this is Electric Era. This is their battery solution. It's a CATL battery. And here's the label. I believe it's 237 kilowatt hours. I did the amp hour times the voltage divided by 1,000, so I'm pretty sure, but it's ballpark 200-ish kilowatt hours. And I don't actually exactly know how they have things set up, but essentially they'll use the battery to power some of the charging and use some from the grid. What I did do was send an email to them so that they could tell me kind of how everything works and how this site works and what's the benefits to it. So hopefully they'll get back to me, and then right now I'll include a clip. All right, everybody, so I sent an email to Electric Era and they got back to me. Quincy and Lang are super cool, and I appreciate them sending me some information. So anyways, a reason they're able to get these sites up relatively quickly, and it depends on the site, but a lot of them use pole-mounted transformers, which are apparently easier for utilities to source and install. And so they tend to do around like 300-ish kVA pole-mounted transformers, which then feeds the site. Now, they get different transformers based on the needs of the site, but for this site, it is a 300 kVA pole-mounted transformer. So that goes to the site, obviously, but it also goes to the battery pack, charges up the battery pack. That battery pack is about, like I said in the video, about 220 kilowatt hours of energy. And essentially, when they're picking, how many available handles they have, theoretically, if the site is completely maxed out, they plan to have an oversubscription of the available power. So basically, theoretically, they could have about 300 kilowatts based on what's being provided for them to the grid, not including the battery. And they have enough conversion capability essentially to do 800 kilowatts. So that's a 2.7, oversubscription times oversubscription. And they do that because, the reality of having 4 cars at the same time all pulling 200 kilowatts is really low. So basically you're kind of like, you're building up a site more than you need to, and that increases the complexity and cost of the site. So what they do is they basically oversubscribe, and instead of just oversubscribing like a lot of Tesla sites are, because it's actually, the data they sent me was interesting, because they said like that's the exact oversubscription that Tesla likes to stick to is 2.7. They add a battery buffer. Now some Tesla sites do have battery buffers, but they add the battery, and essentially that allows them, in the event that they would need more than what they're subscribed to, it can pull from the battery and it can meet the needs of the site, which is a really, really cool implementation, and I think it's really smart. And one of the biggest costs of a EV charging site is the demand charge. So basically, whatever the highest, amount of power that is pulled, like the peak, that's what they get charged for, and it can be thousands of dollars. So if you reduce the amount of power that's actually getting pulled from the grid, you reduce the demand charge and you make it more affordable and hopefully more profitable for whoever's running the site. So it's a really cool implementation, and I'm really appreciative that they were able to send me all of that information. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and plug in. I'm not exactly sure how the payment will work, whether it will be an app or whatever, because right now it's free, but they do have this Vivo Pay down here where you can tap to pay, swipe, you can insert, all sorts of fun like that. So let's go ahead, plug in. There we go. All right, click. The top lights up, beginning session. Session should begin in 33 seconds. I heard my port lock. Here's some clicking, and there we go, we're charging. Worth noting, so this is just unavailable while it's authenticating starting the charge. So if you plug in and someone wants to plug in right after you, they have to wait, I guess, which probably makes sense. And here we're charging, got the rate, the total, which includes tax, which is nice to see that, the power. And I did plug in earlier, if I'm gonna be honest with you all, and I did get 157, 158 kilowatts. This might ramp up, might not, because we're at a high state of charge, so yeah, it won't. And then shows you how much energy has been delivered to the car, and then shows the state of charge and how long you have been charging. So I did want to talk about a scenario. I actually arrived here. There was already a family with a BZ4X. They were trying to get to charge. I was on the one on the left. I plugged in just to see if it would work before I shot the video, and it worked perfectly fine for me. And they were having trouble. I came over to help, and the right handle in this unit wasn't working for them. So we swapped. I let them go take my spot so I know they could get a charge. I came over here and it also didn't work for my car. I already reached out to Electric Era to let them know that there was some kind of issue. But then I went ahead and tried the other handle, and the other handle worked perfectly fine. So not sure what's going on. This is obviously early days of this site being live, so I'm sure issues like that are bound to happen. But again, the left handle is working for me and I'm able to get a charge. So I did want to talk about a few of the issues that I have with these units, at least in my opinion. I'm not an expert, but based on my experience with Electrify America, I just see a couple issues. So first off, this unit has a giant screen, and that's how you interface with the charger. And what happens if this screen gets broken? How quick can they replace it? How expensive is it to replace this screen? I wonder. And again, too, I am having a little bit of a hard time seeing the charger, and I can't actually see anything with my glasses on because they're polarized, so I have to take them off. So I just think, a smaller, brighter screen might be a better option. Additionally, they have this emergency stop down here, which I don't think should be public facing. If anything, maybe they don't have a choice as to where this is placed, but maybe on the back of the unit would be better so that people who know what they're doing can do it. Or maybe this is just some kind of local Delaware code. Not sure what's going on there, but people could turn it off, and then if it was showing to some sort of app or Plugshare or any other provider like that, it would look like it's off when really just the emergency stop needs to be turned off. So that's an issue I have. And then the cable management is just, it's old school cable management. I was at some Electrify America units that have this similar style, and eventually this wears out and it starts to sag more and more, and it's more weight on the ground and it's harder for people to manage. Whereas like a lot of the systems that have the arms that move out, they're always there. It's pinned to that, so there's no cabling or like string or whatever you want to call it involved. Lasts a long time, and it makes it easier for people to use. A lot of these cables, I do wonder if everyone can easily manipulate them because of how heavy they are. But aside from all those issues, I am getting a great charge right now. It's exactly where I'd expect to be at this state of charge. One thing I did want to mention, everybody, so this is located at a Valero, which is a gas station, so obviously inside you can go get some food, drinks, stuff like that. Aside from that, it's not the best location. There's a car wash here. Now I will say at least the charging speed meets the location, if that makes sense. So this is a 400 kilowatt, so as fast as you can get at a gas station, that's what you want. Whereas in this area, the only really competition is Blink, and they're installing 60 kilowatt units at Royal Farms, which in my opinion doesn't meet the need of the location. It's all about dwell time. Most people don't want to dwell at a Royal Farms for an hour, whereas dwelling here for 15 to 20 minutes, not the end of the world. You can go in, bathroom, drinks, come back out and leave, and maybe get a car wash too. So I wanted to mention that it's a good location. I wish there were more amenities nearby, but I think we'll probably start to see more electric infrastructure at gas stations like this. And you know, this does serve a major need in the communities of Delaware, where there is not a lot of DC fast charging. All right, everybody, I just wanted to add this little appendix, if you will, to this video, because I was editing it and I felt like I was being a little harsh, and I'm not necessarily being harsh towards Electric Era. I'm just like, this is how I feel about it. I am, as a consumer who's used a lot of Signet equipment, I'm very nervous about that. So this Signet equipment, I'm sure that Electric Air vetted it and they feel very confident in it. And I hope that's true. And I'm sure they have all the parts so that they can keep it up. And that'll be great. And maybe it's not an issue and I'm just nervous for no reason. But obviously I'm a little scared. Like, Signet makes me scared because of how things kind of went with Electrify America. And so, yeah, so I wanted to say that, you know, hopefully things shake out well, and Electric Era seems to do their due diligence on everything, and hopefully they tested everything and they feel very confident in the ability to keep these chargers up and running. Additionally, I was commenting on the site location, and I stand by that. I don't think it's a great site location because it's kind of off the main drag, and like there's really nothing around there, and the gas station's not like the nicest of gas stations. So I wish it was like, you know, closer to like the main road where people are driving by, and it has nice amenities around, and it's a place that you would want to spend time at. Because at least for me, like when I'm charging, you know, I want to, you know, at least enjoy my time on there, because I have to be there for 10 to 25 minutes, so I might as well enjoy it. At that location, I would avoid it just because of where it is. Now, I'm sure that, you know, the reality is Electric Air is a company and they want to make money. So if they have a customer come to them and they want to buy the product, like they provide the product. You know what I mean? And it's up to that company, you know, where they install it and everything like that. So I know that's an issue. So hopefully more companies that choose to go with Electric Air, or even other, you know, technologies that are out there, can maybe, you know, think about where you're putting the locations so that it's somewhere where EV drivers want to go. One of the reasons I started EV charging site reviews was because I wanted to kind of, you know, highlight in like what I thought a good charging site is, and that's why I made that rubric. And for that site, I don't even think I did an EV charging site review. It would not have done well, just because it kind of lacks so many essential things, at least that I want to have as an EV driver. So anyways, not knocking Electric Era. They're doing awesome things. And if you know, people want to put in charging, I think they should go with Electric Era, because they can do it fast, and it will probably be relatively affordable compared to other options. So anyways, yeah, there's my little appendix. Thanks. All right, everybody, so I'm going to close out this video. I think it's a really cool install. I love the concept with the battery buffer, so you don't have to get as big a connection to the grid. I don't love the location, like I said. You know, dwell times can be anywhere from 10 to 25 minutes, and there's not much to do here. I much prefer somewhere where I have something to go do. That way the time passes quickly, and then I can come, whether it's just go to the bathroom or whether it's go get food or go pick up some last minute groceries. I'd much prefer that than to an old school kind of convenience center. That being said, good on Fast Charge and Valero. I'm not exactly sure how that arrangement all works, but probably Fastmart for doing this and providing something that the community needs, because there is a huge deficit of charging. There's not a lot of charging in Delaware, and it's not impossible to traverse Delaware, but it is a lot harder. With something like this coming into town, and there's an Electrify America coming into town, things are starting to look up, but yeah, so anyways, that's all I have here for today. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, please remember to give a like, a subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will catch you all next time.